it can't be tied to this like one or two people at the front desk that makes your client experience. It's not a good game to play. No, we're not. No, you're not putting a fucking Planet Fitness in here. Not a chance. That's below our brand. That's not the right person that we're trying to attract. You're not in the business of selling fitness and changing lives. That's the soundbite. You're in the same business as the airlines are. You're in the same business as the stadiums are. We sell seats.
Hello and welcome to Gym World Worldwide. I am your host, John Franklin. Joined with me, as always, is my friend, my compatriot, my co-founder, Mr. Mateo Lopez, wearing the Kilo shirt and the Kilo hat. Thank you, because I didn't wear my Kilo hat today. And sometimes people need to remember that Kilo pays for this podcast. And joining us...
They don't pay us for the podcast.
No, we work pro bono
for it. Yeah, let's get that clear.
People see my office like, are you a podcaster? It's like, kind of, but I don't make any money from it.
Yes.
But our woes aside, let's talk about our guest today. Very special guest, friend of the pod, big brain in this industry, guy we like to bounce ideas off. We've had him on the show before to talk about his success in gym real estate and running a gym. And then this week, we're going to be talking about what he is seeing as the owner of the Gym Real Estate Company. Great name, by the way. It is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Stu Brower. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Hair's 100%. Hair gains are better than body gains since the last we've come on.
I'm just going to let it go until probably St. Patty's Day and then see how wild we can get this fucking thing and then figure it out from there. Because then at that point, it'll be hot as fuck in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I probably won't want all this, but we'll see.
We wanted you to shine, so we asked Teo to put the cap on. We didn't want him to have his locks out, you know. He's got the most luscious head of hair in the business. So yeah, man, let's start with open-ended question. What do you see in the market right now? We'll try and keep it specific to real estate because I know that's what most gym owners are knocking on your door to help with. What's going on in the market out there?
Yeah. So, number one, we're seeing a ton of real estate transacting in the fitness. Well, let's call it the wellness category. That's not fitness. So you're talking all your saunas, your cold plunging, your recovery, lots of transactions happening there. A lot of landlords hedging their bets. They might have like a Stretch Lab and a Club Pilates or a CrossFit or an Orange Theory. And they're like, I don't think I'm going to do another boutique thing, especially post-COVID. Let's give this wellness thing a try. They've got some good numbers. They got some good momentum. We'll try that. So we're seeing a lot of real estate transact on that front. And then on the gym front, I think, we were talking earlier, there's not a prevailing model necessarily. I will say the easiest thing to do right now for me is semi-privates. We're talking 2,000 or less square feet. Great. But the biggest thing that the semi-private has, that the large group has, it's not a bloat on the parking lot. People don't understand how badly landlords covet parking spaces in shopping plazas. And if it's not a power center, and a power center is like, imagine like the mall. Think of like where like a Dick's and a Panera and a Starbucks and a Michael's and all those big giant commerce centers. But in the smaller ones, right, like maybe 10 doors on the thing or something like that or less, they covet those parking spaces. So like bringing in a group fitness that's going to have 20 people a class, 40 during overlap, they're like, no, I can't do that. So semi-private is much easier to get in. And then also, if they've got one location, I can sell the second very easily because the revenue per square foot math is super simple to the landlord. I'm like, hey, listen, you're charging 35? Cool. This guy's making 125.
Do landlords know what that is? Like, do you have to explain it to them? Only because
revenue
I
per
remember
square foot
is what money is.
Sorry, what semi-private training is or small group. Yeah, when we were in New York, like CrossFit was kind of new, and so like it was like we categorized it as, well, I don't know what our building was categorized under, John, but it was like not, no one knew what it was, so they kind of let it slide. But then once people caught on, they're like, "Oh yeah, you have to like not be loud." So yeah, do landlords know what this is?
Yeah, I have to dumb it down. So on this podcast, I can say personal training, semi-private training, micro gym or group fitness, and we all kind of have an idea what I'm talking about. Open gym, I can say. So I have to be specific. So if I just said my guy has a fitness use, and I'm pitching it to a listing agent or landlord, I have to be specific so they don't think health club that needs 300 parking spaces. And I don't want to think group if it's a semi-private. So I can say they have a semi-private training facility. And then like in parentheses, I might say something like, think of personal training but 3 times the revenue because they train 3 clients at once. Just to give him a layman's 7th grade understanding of what I'm talking about.
Beautiful. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know you work with a couple of large group training franchises that want to be in, large tenant anchored shopping malls. Like what's the secret to getting in there? Is it just like the concept has to be really hot, or do you have to go to, secondary or tertiary locations because landlords hate that model so much?
I'll be honest, some of the top performing group fitness facilities have a hard time getting into those power centers, those big ones that I mentioned. I mean, mainly because there is a certain price that doesn't map. So for example, in New Jersey, a really nice brand new power center is going in. This is going to be anchored. And so whenever you hear, guys, when you hear retail anchor, that is like the big Mama Jamma brand that they're bringing in that's going to attract most of the traffic. So in this particular one, we have a Sprouts. So very popular grocery store for everyone not familiar. And then they're going to look to bring in a bunch of supporting good actors into that. So you're thinking like QSR, like Chipotle's, Cava, right? Quick service restaurants, QSRs. You're thinking retail, Lululemon, Anthropologie. Yeah, and then some fitness. But it's not even like, can they get in there? It's not that the super center or whatever, the retail owners don't want them there. It's like, can they afford $90 a square foot? I don't know any boutique fitness facility that can be above 75, at most part. I mean, there's some berries and some things like that can play in those realms for a second, but I even think then the numbers on a long enough timeline don't track. But it's price point, and it's that's the number one thing. And I have to tell good franchises, this is the franchise HQ and the franchisee, you're awesome. You're not that fucking awesome. The numbers just don't crunch for us. But dude, it's brand new. It's going to be the shit. Everyone's going to be there. We're not. I promise you we're not. Because after triple net, you're talking $97 a square foot. So unless you guys are trying to the 2x your price point, we got to go elsewhere.
And so that's why, Orange Theory seemed like they were able to do it at the height of boutique. Like, how are you feeling on that trend?
First at the door. I mean, so again, think about where Orange Theory shows up in retail. Before that, CrossFit was around, but we were in industrial fucking off doing that whole thing. What else was in retail fitness based at that time?
Like a Planet Fitness.
Correct. But now you're talking 20,000 square feet.
Like, yeah, again, it would be more personal training centered.
I would say
type
concepts. Like not Pilates, but like the other Weight Watcher one.
Yeah. So like Jenny Craig, things like that. Zumba had some standalone shops. You look what Curves did back in the day. So
Curves, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah. So historically, if we look at commercial real estate around that time of the 2009 and 10. Remember, we just came out the economic crash. A lot of these retail centers had like these slivers, like these 1,800 square foot, 2,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet spots that were hard to fill. It might have been an H&R Block previously before they shut a bunch of those down in the crash. So now you have this group coming out of Florida that's like, hey, there's 12 million square feet of inventory across the US available in these kind of places. Holy shit, that's a great area to fit it into. It's not a coincidence that Orange Theory is long and rectangular. Like we call these bowling alley, like long rectangles or squares. Typically in inline retail, it's a longer rectangle type situation, but it's not like, I'm blanking on her name, but the founder of Orange Theory is like, I have this vision for these awesome rectangles. No, it's what matched the availability of commercial real estate at the time. And she had some great advisement saying, hey, listen, there's a lot of space that we can get into now. And they created the template for that. Now you look at a Metabolic, a Base Camp, an Alpha Fit, an F45, all those franchises, kind of a similar, Barry's kind of similar footprints, squares and rectangles and this certain thing that can just kind of boom, be put into inline retail. But no, that's the thing is there just was no one else playing in those spaces. So they got in and it was very attractive because it brings in foot traffic, which is what those centers want. They want people in and out, and a retail fitness concept, boutique fitness, group fitness does a great job of that. And it's higher end because it's more expensive. You don't want Planet Fitness members. No offense to anyone listening that goes Planet Fitness. You're cheap. You're a cheap fuck. That's why you spend $10. Well, it's 15 now or whatever. But like it's HVLP, high volume, low price. They don't want that riffraff necessarily in the same center that they're trying to sell Wonder or they're trying to sell J. Crew on.
And they don't go, right? You buy the membership and then you don't go, which is the other, which for versus like Orange Theory, you're going to class 3 times a week or whatever.
One thing I've learned about this is like the power of the anchoring tenant. Like they're just brand snobbery. Like you'll have like, again, like an anchor tenant like Sprouts is like, no, we're not. No, you're not putting a fucking Planet Fitness in here. Not a chance. That's below our brand. That's not the right person that we're trying to attract.
Our Sprouts has a Planet Fitness next to it, so we got in. They got into Jupiter. They were able to go up market in Jupiter, but it may be the only place because Jupiter Planet Fitness crowd's a little more highbrow, you know. All right, so you talk about this all day, every day. You deal with people who are starting their first gym, a lot of 1 to 2. So first gym, want to expand to a second. Then you deal with people who open a lot, right? A lot of people listening to this show are probably in that like 1 to 4 gym range, and they're thinking about scaling. All right. Talk to me about like what they should be thinking about, what considerations they should be making when they're trying to like figure out what the ideal play is for real estate, because this matters. When you're talking about Orange Theory, obviously getting bodies in the door, being first, riding that wave is important. But when we talk to a lot of franchisors on the show, they're very, very specific about real estate, and that defines the concept almost as much as the training. So, if you're a gym owner who's maybe a little less sophisticated, what advice are you giving them in terms of like, here's how you should think about opening number 2 if you want to open number 20 one day?
Sure. I'll use a great lesson that one of our clients, so Devin Gage, he's got his Gage personal training semi-private. So we're doing the real estate for all the future locations of that. His goal is to get to 100. He's currently at 8. And Devin and he'll self-admit, he'll say, I had a lot of good results in Pennsylvania. And, he opened one, did well. He opened another. And if I could pull it up in there, you kind of see, like, you think of like trade areas. So for everyone listening, trade area is simply the radius in which people will and have, so historically, will commute to that location back and forth from their home or work location, because that dissipates the further out you go. Okay. So that trade area, and you can do it based on volume and drive times and all this kind of stuff, is you kind of want to have slight overlap. So if you open location 1 on the east side, everyone's, I think, initial thing is like, I'm going to go to the west side. Yeah, because I don't want to cannibalize. And we all use that term. We're like, I don't want to cannibalize my location. We really don't know what the fuck it means. We're essentially saying we don't want to have so much trade area overlap that these two things, think of a Venn diagram, they sit so heavily on top of each other that one location eats the other one. Okay. Now, I can empathize and see why someone might say, okay, I've got an east location, I need to go to the west, right? Well, Devin did a great job. I'm going to talk about what he did really well and what he fucked up on, but he did a great job in the Pennsylvania locations, putting them close enough to where there was some trade area overlap, right? So it might be some ripple effect from brand awareness, right? People have I've driven past that. Oh my God, there's 2 of these. It must be, maybe it's a national chain. It's insane how as a consumer, you see 2 of something in your town and you instantly think it's a chain. We experienced that with CrossFit. How many people thought CrossFit was a franchise for years? So there is some brand power and authority that happens by having multiple locations relatively close together. We generally look at a trade or overlap, anything at like 40% I'm not bullish on, meaning 40% of your trade area overlaps. That's a little much for me. Now, depends on the density. If I've got 90,000 people within 2 square miles, I'm not as concerned. Not like, right, but like it all depends. There's some other factors in here. But going to Devin, he did a great job kind of stacking these things just slightly outside of each other's trade area with a little bit of overlap. Then Devin gets cocky because he's killing it. He's doing well. He's like, let's go to fucking California where nobody knows me. People in California are fit. They're going to be outside. This is going to be great. And he'll still tell you, he's like, that location is one of their more challenging ones because he fucking jumped to a spot that nobody had heard of his brand. I mean, essentially it's like starting over with zero, proximity support, meaning it's not like he can drive over there like he can in the PA markets and assist and get on site. Now go to another version of this that we work with is AlphaFit. Sam Tooley opens up 17 of these locations in Jersey, 17 in one state. Now, Jersey's a pretty long rectangular state. Kind of looks like a used condom turned upside down if you ever really looked at it and you get creative a little. So just visual for everybody.
Wow.
But you look at this, I lived there and I hated it. So I can talk shit on it. I feel like I can talk shit on it. But Jersey, you look at it and it is one giant shopping plaza. New Jersey is just a giant strip mall. If you've ever driven up the highways, it's just strip mall after strip mall after strip mall. 17 locations. The brand awareness he's created in New Jersey is super helpful when he opens up more New Jersey locations. Will it help him in Austin, Texas? No, not at all. So that's why we had to be very strategic. And when he's bringing in franchisees now, so now we're looking at Long Island, Westchester County, New York. So we're right outside of Jersey. We'll get some benefit from that brand awareness he's created in that state, but we're not looking to ship it to Denver, Colorado. Now, I'm not saying they wouldn't entertain a franchisee in another state like that, because eventually you do got to dip your toe in the pond somewhere else where you haven't been. But in the beginning, my biggest recommendation is, guys, don't think about going so far to the other side of town because you're afraid of cannibalization. You want to attack that market. You want to make sure that there's some trade area overlap so you can benefit logistically off your staff. Because let's be honest, most of these gym owners are opening that second location without completely having a full independent staff for the second location. They're going to be sharing a couple people back and forth or themselves. So that would be my number one thing, guys. Don't be so close, but I'm not too concerned if as long as the density's there for the membership and you have to know your penetration, how many people, like you find out your radius. So let's say the radius is 100,000 people within 3 miles and you have 200 members. So that's your penetration rate. I'm not too concerned about another location opening up 2 miles from you.
Yeah, I mean, we were in a town of 60,000 people in a square mile. We had 2 gyms that were, less than a mile away from each other, and it was completely fine just because people wouldn't walk to the other side of town, right? How do you calculate that, the trade radius?
Internet's software. So we're able to go ahead and the licenses for a bunch of the softwares we have allow us to pick a building, any site in the United States with an address, and it'll pull the mobile traffic data that's gone in and out of that site over any period of time. And I can specify it. I want any cell phone that's gone into this building and stayed at least 60 minutes, because then I know it's probably a member, right? Versus someone who popped in and used the bathroom. And I want anyone who's gone at least 12 times in a year. And it'll show me the trade area of only those cell phones. Then it'll give me the demographics, the psychographics, the buying behaviors, all the cool, creepy stuff.
And so you brought up 2 concepts, right? So Devin's thing, he's up to 8. They do the 2,000 square foot and 1,200 to 2,000 square foot small group training. Joe Meglio is someone we had on the show, did the same thing. I think he's up to like 14 or 15 now. We've heard plenty about that concept. And then Sam Tooley, who Alpha Fit's more of a larger group concept. 3,000
to 3,300 square feet. Yep.
So what's that sweet spot, right? Like if you're thinking square footage, and you're trying to map out a concept, where are you telling them like, hey, you don't want to be above this or below this?
Awesome question. So the way I would think about that, and maybe this is like the best way, so essentially we got to understand what your pricing is. So let's assume they have established pricing. So when I have established pricing, I can figure out average revenue per person per class or session if it's semi-private. Okay. From there, I can then estimate average revenue per class or session. So from that, I can take away op cap. So cool. So you're going to make, for example, and if we do something, I was going to pull up, I got this like calculator that we essentially use. I hate using the word calculator because it's not meant to be a calculator. It's not meant to be Bible. It's meant to be a tool for like analysis, right? So check it out. So let's say the rentable square feet of a site, that's what you pay for. That's like how your monthly rent is calculated is $2,500. But you're in the ground floor of an apartment complex, and they also give you access to another 500 square feet of bathrooms and hallway and that kind of shit. So your usable is 3,000, and your serviceable, like where the people are that you sell and you provide your service, is 2,000 square feet. Okay. Now, if 20 people per class is your cap, well, it's easy to figure out, okay, well, the average person's taking up on average about 100 square feet out of 2,000, right? And then you can go ahead. I need to know your ARPC. So that comes from your pricing model. So once I get figured that out, I'm able to go ahead and pretty quickly come down here and understand first, based on utilization rates. Utilization for everyone listening is attendance.
Explain what ARPC is for the listeners at home.
Average revenue per person per class. So for example, if you have a 12 times a month membership, okay, for $200. All right. The average cost per person per class is $16.66. 200 divided by 12. Pretty simple. It's what they're paying per class. Okay. Now, from there, I'm like, cool. Well, in this example I have on the screen, it's 13. Awesome. And if you can only fit 20 people in the class at a time, so assuming there's enough room for 20 plus a coach or something, well, then we're able to go ahead and figure out, okay, per class, you could make approximately 260. 20 people times $13. Cool. Awesome. Then we have to run utilization. So nobody utilizes 100% of their class, their spots in their class. And that's where like getting a gym owner to break their mindset. You're not in the business of selling fitness and changing lives. That's the soundbite. You're in the same business as the airlines are. You're in the same business as the stadiums are. We sell seats. We sell spots. That's it. And you're not limited. Stripe doesn't care how many credit cards you process per month. They'll let you process 10 million. They don't give a shit. But you can't fit 10 million people in your building in a month. You can only fit so many people. Those are your hard logistical bottlenecks. So, you can go ahead and kind of see in this model here, if you offer 40 sessions per week, that's 160 a month. Well, this is how many spots you have to sell, 3,200 spots a month. Okay. So utilization rate essentially is your attendance. Now, the fun thing about this sliding scale, and that's why I hate calling this a calculator, just because let's say 65% is what we're looking at for someone's utilization, which wouldn't be great, but just because 65% attend, 100% could still be paying because it's a monthly charge, right? So there is this thing in here, this part there, it's more to open up these conversations with gym owners. Like, listen, I understand at 65% utilization, your revenue doesn't instantly drop, right? It's not like you get paid based on people's attendance, but we can make a probably fair statement that revenue will be impacted on a long enough timeline if people are not attending on a consistent basis. So again, it's not a one-to-one. It's not meant to be a calculator, but like, this is how, when you say like how much square footage, I use tools like this to figure this out, to go ahead and start having conversations of how much square footage do you need? And most people just take a guess. They're like, well, my last place was 3,000. And that's where I get like layouts and people send me videos and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, what's all that bullshit over there? It's taking up like 150 square feet. Well, that's the member hangout area. Yeah. How's that doing? Right? Like, what are we doing with that? And then I try to lean them out if possible, because ideally I'd like for them to have a better ratio of their price per square foot and their revenue per square foot.
Bop that chart back up. That was good because there we go. So that bottom line there where it says estimated TAR, total annual revenue. Yeah. Annual revenue, and then revenue per square foot. So that's the money number there. That's what we're trying to distill down, right? Because you're going to pay on a per square foot basis. So it then becomes a math equation, right? That's what we're trying to get to here.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So one of the things that we see all the time, and this is prevalent amongst it's especially prevalent in CrossFit, but all gyms do this, right? So, hey, my gym's a little profitable. We have 3,000 square feet. We have the opportunity to rent next door for another 3,000 square feet. Should we do it? Right? And most of the time, my knee-jerk reaction is no. But I want to get your thought on, how do you turn this into a math equation of whether you should, expand your space? Yes or no?
I'm 100%. So same scenario, 3,000 square feet. We're killing it. Cool. What is killing it? Give me utilization, because I need to know how much square footage is not being utilized, right? How
many gym owners actually know this when they come to talk to you?
They don't, but it's an easy homework. And they're like, Daddy, what's utilization? I'm like, well, come here, son. This is what utilization is. Go to MindBody, go to Push Press, go to Kilo, and run the fucking numbers and come back to Daddy and we'll talk. Right? Like, it's you're right. Most gym owners don't come back with this number, this information at the tip of their tongue. And I'll be honest, I wasn't one of those guys either. I always had access to it though. And that's one thing I've always been really big on is I don't expect you to have this information. I do expect you with the very 1, 2, 3 steps that I give you, you can get the information. And if you can't get it, we cannot work together, because it's just a matter of clicking buttons and maybe getting on the phone with tech support and saying, hey, I've never ran this report on attendance. How do I get that? So like, it's just, there's effort on my client's part that they have to put in to understand their business better, which I really do like. And I'm totally part of like, this should be an educational experience for you. You should walk away even on the real estate where you don't pay me a dime and be like, I fucking learned some significant shit about my business during that process.
Well, yeah, one of the things we bonded on the first time we talked to you about is we were both talking about how we love efficiency, right? And one of the things that we heard you say that was smart, you're always advocating for like use smaller barbells because you can be in a smaller space and like program intelligently because you don't have to have 6,000 square feet and you can make more money. Looks like you fleshed it out a little bit here in a way that's easier to visualize and actually calculate and put a dollar amount to, which is great. So let's assume we get to our revenue per square foot, right? From a concept standpoint, if you have an original location, if you're doing like a second location, say, hey, if your original does this, do you give them take a 70%
Are we on the still same
haircut?
example of 3,000 square feet? Should I take an additional 3? Are we still on that one?
No. Let's go like I
want to make sure we got an answer on that though, because I think that's a good one. So the answer is maybe you should. Where's your utilization? Meaning, do you still have room to currently do your thing? If the answer is yes, do my utilization's like in the 80s. I'm like, okay, it's pretty damn good. Like annually, monthly, you got high 80s, like we're pretty good. Because you got to leave some room for selling. Great. When was the last time you raised prices? Because the key is to not relocate and to not add expense, but to increase revenue. That's the ultimate goal, right? Because adding that 3,000 suite next to you, square foot suite, only increases operating expenses. It doesn't do anything else. There's no other guarantee. So are you at the max price? Have you topped out your pricing? If they don't know how to do that, right? Everyone's currently paying the same. Awesome. On the next 30 people that walk in the door, I want you to go at this price, this amount higher. What was your closing ratio at that higher price? Dude, it's fucking nuts. 80% of people close at that new rate. Good deal. We've got our new pricing. Raise it on everybody else. Okay. Once you've done all those things and you say, cool, 3,000, I also need no market penetration. For this particular person, how many of them are around here? What percentage do you have? How many competitors are in the area? Because there is a limit on how many, it's not everybody that can potentially be a customer. There's a very specific limit for your specific problem. So if I feel after looking at all that, yeah, guys, like I'm not gonna lie, you've done really fucking well at this location. Like you are A+, you're doing very well. Adding 3,000 square feet doesn't mean we're going to keep doing well. We might have tapped out this particular niche market, or no, we haven't. Like your problem that you solve is that you help endurance runners strength train so they avoid injury and score and get better PRs. Well, the current running market in here in this town and blah, blah, blah within 3 miles is over 150,000 people. You have 200. Get that extra 3,000 square feet. So again, it's maybe is the answer, unfortunately.
And they'll a lot of times what they'll say, and I'm sure you get this on the when people are talking through this with you, is like, hey, like maybe their utilization rate's a little lower, but they'll say, hey, my peak times are smashed, absolutely smashed during peak times. Can't add another body at 6 p.m. But then you look at their less peak times, and it's
and there's no growing less peak times. I don't believe in that whatsoever. That's not. It's hard. Like you'll see some increase, but it's not significant. You're going to sell out. You have 6 hours a day to make money. 5, 6, 7 a.m., 5, 6, 7 p.m. That's fucking it. Then once you've done that, you might have these afternoon 9 a.m., the mommies after they drop the kids off, and then like a nooner, right? Like, but that's it. Like, maybe 8 to 9 hours a day tops. And there's always, out of those 9 hours, if you get 9 classes a day or more, you're going to have fucking 20% of them be duds, meaning they are underperforming on utilization compared to the rest. That's just how that is. So my thing on that is just ultimately going to be, well, I can't grow that anymore. And then it's the op cap, like you talk about barbells and stuff like that. It's like, cool. I'm not gonna lie, your facility layout is dog shit. You have a rig in the middle of the floor. The fuck's wrong with you? Right? Don't do that. Right? Let's fix that. Like I can make this space more efficient and I can add 6 more people per class by reconfiguring this layout. And some people that require some programming adjustments that are not willing to make. And I'm like, oh, you're the boss. Take the 3,000 square feet. Go for it.
But to be clear, we're using a blended utilization, right? So, because I'm sure people, when they want to expand, it's usually like a 5 or 6 p.m. class fills out. It's busting at the seams. People are getting waitlisted and they're angry. But virtually every other class has time. But that utilization rate is literally a blended average of the bad ones and the good ones.
Good
Correct?
ones, yeah.
Yeah. And so
And
they're
selling
making
out's
decisions
good.
based off of that.
Why do you think
Yeah.
people like? I'm curious for you guys because I know you guys do this. Like, why do you think we like see selling out as a problem?
I mean, it's not a problem per se. It's just if you're in a situation where you're oversold, right? So if I'm paying for 3 times a week and I'm paying a lot, but I have to fight for my spot at 6 p.m. It's tough. I think.
Sure,
in that
100%.
scenario.
Correct. So it's like so someone's like, when you say oversold, the interest in 6 p.m. class, because it's not like you sell people based on class times. You sell them a menu and it's first come, first serve, just like a restaurant would, right? Like we have X amount of tables. So the interest is greater than the availability of the class capacity. Now, is that 6 days a week? Is that 7? Can you split the difference on class times? That's why classes that run 60-minute end-to-end classes is, I promise you, if you're successful, you'll run into this issue. And then you'll be like, I get it why some of those guys do 50-minute classes or 45-minute classes.
45.
And they just spend less time jerking off at the whiteboard, talking, debriefing everybody on 10 minutes on their WOD, right? So it just efficiency. There's so many more steps before adding the square footage. And also the price raise thing is an easy one. Like the price raise thing is a very easy one if you need to bleed that you want more people in. But ultimately, like, dude, Stu, 6 p.m. sold out. Congrats. You're like, no, this is a problem. I'm like, you've got this fear of like you're missing out on more money. Like you should have set this business should have been set up to where when we sell out a class, we're pumped. Now we need to focus on the classes we're not selling out and get everything up into these 80% utilizations or higher. And then when it's all nice and tight, like, there's nothing more we can do here because everyone thinks it can just go up and to the right forever. There's a cap on all this, guys. Well, then we open up that next location.
I want to ask you about the midday thing again, because we tried it. We tried a discounted membership for midday classes or off-peak classes, right? The off-peak stuff. And it was kind of successful for a little bit, but then wasn't. And you said just now, I don't believe in them. So my brother-in-law rents an office space in a little strip mall place. And there's a CrossFit gym next door. And he's like, I know what they pay in rent. It drives me crazy. How come it's always empty during the day? I was like, dude, I mean, it's just the way. It's just like, it's hard to do 2 p.m. classes. So yeah, have you seen it work ever?
No, I mean, it's also like lifestyle. So like if there's a gym so let me put it this way. So if there is a gym in a university setting, there's really no off-peak classes. They're just all like, I mean, you have kids that are able to attend 2 p.m. between classes or, blah, blah, blah. Like it just depends where you're at. If you're in a traditional 9 to 5 and you charge a price point that someone needs to make $100,000 a year or more, they're young professionals or established professionals, then yeah, it's not only just 9 to 5, it's also kids and letting the dog out. It's like where in the lifestyle of your understanding that core customer is the availability to come in, and middle of the day just isn't it. I hate working out in the morning. But I work out. I'm up at 4:30 and I have to go. I'm working out the first thing in the morning because it just what fits my work, kid life, desired schedule. Not because I want to do it, right? I'd be a 2 p.m.er all day, every day.
Yeah,
like that would be my preferred fucking time. Like let me get a couple hours and wake up and all that shit. But it just doesn't work out. But if it's like I need to activate the space during the day, that's where you're seeing people. Like I love when you go to an open gym and you can pop in and use it. But again, it's going to be few and far between. We're talking shillings. Like we're not talking significant money.
Yeah.
Hey, gym owners, are you looking for a way to generate more leads, close more sales, and increase client retention? Introducing Kilo. We are a software company that gives gym owners the tools they need to increase revenue and run a successful gym. With Kilo, you get a beautifully designed website to capture more leads, an integrated marketing automation platform to increase sales, and our gym management software so you can add new client memberships, process payments, and organize your class schedule. If you're ready to upgrade your gym management software, book a call at usekilo.com.
All right. So let's go back. We figure out we're no longer expanding. We're trying to figure out, how much rent we can afford to pay comfortably. So we understand our model. We know our revenue per square foot. What are you advising people? Like what's the percentage mark you're advising people to stay under when they're looking for space?
If you have traditional payroll, then for 25% of your total monthly revenue. So if you have payroll, you have human beings you have to pay to be there to coach classes, work the front desk, whatever. That, for most people, it's most models, 25% at the highest. Okay.
All right.
Now, when you think about that, it's a good, tricky question because I'll have people like, whoa, 25% of my total monthly revenue, but what was that, month 6 or month 36? Because that number's a little bit fucking different. Good point. I always think about in 18 to 24 months. That's in my head when we are still in infancy stage, and if we're a startup or we're a concept. But from a revenue standpoint, if we did this thing right, we should be out of the trenches. And at that point, rent should not be our biggest nut anymore. Now, again, this is also I'm coming in biased, right? For anyone listening to this and they're like a startup and they were bootstrapped in their garage and they're, renting a corner of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, this might not track. But for any of my franchises or any of the guys who have multiple locations in which we do have, we have money and we can operationally open up well. The thing about Devin that's beautiful, let's look at his first location. How long did it take for him to get to his revenue number? It's taken him a third of the time, if not less, at the other locations. Why? Because he's smarter. He's faster. He now has money, and money allows things to happen more efficiently. So I generally put that, especially with my franchises and my more sophisticated brands, I'm generally looking at 18 to 24 months. Where do we think revenue is going to be? I don't want to exceed 25% of that. Which means for the first 18 to 24 months, it might be more than 25%, but that's okay. That's why you have money and you have that operating capital you opened with.
Right. So if you're a $40,000 a month, if the pro forma shows 18 months out, you're making $40,000 a month, you want to be capped at 10. You don't want to be spending more than 10 grand a month on rent, is what we're saying. And I'm assuming that's all in. So if you're triple net, that includes all your stuff.
That does. And, the thing that's beautiful about this and what I'm able to convert, the open gym models have been probably the number one thing I'm getting in concepts. And the thing that I'm seeing people open, even if they have semi-private currently, and now they want to open an open gym model, that boutique-y 10,000 square feet or less open gym model. It doesn't take me long or too many spreadsheets to be like, no staff. We are 100% payrollless. Like Iron 24 is doing. We are going completely payrollless, minus cleaning staff and either yourself or some area manager to pop in there and blah, blah, blah. Was filming with the Garage Gym and Kieran Williams. So I know you guys have had on the show as well. And me and him talk about his 2 locations and the margins that you can have when you could be payrollless. He can afford 35 to 40%, even more if he wanted to on rent. Meaning he could get into some dope fucking spots because he doesn't have payroll.
Yeah. Not having payroll is very nice. Removing your largest expense from any business is really nice.
Especially one in which it doesn't move the needle. In the open gym model, I don't care what anybody says. I'll fly on out and see it. Show me this front desk girl that's going to razzle dazzle me to the tune that it's it makes the client experience. And if you really say that, well, no, my front desk girl, Sally, is it makes client experience. Well, you sound like a vulnerable motherfucker because Sally's going to leave one day because nobody grew up saying, I can't wait to be a front desk employee. So it can't be tied to this 1 or 2 people at the front desk that makes your client experience. It's not a good game to play, in my opinion.
But there needs to be something Kieran's kind of the mascot for that place. He is very much a character. I do think part of that success there is that he's around.
Very much so. My videographer I had up there, she says to me, because we had 3 different conversations, right? At Alpha Fit, I had Pratt, personal training, and then we had Kieran. She goes, the conversation with Kieran was so much different. And I'm like, the dude is very much, again, because he doesn't have to, he's cash flowing very well because he has a very simple, but he's so entrenched in the abstract. I think of it as math and art. He's so entrenched in the art and creating the community and vetting people. He doesn't do scale. He scales the unscalable. He does application phone calls, interviews for people who want to join.
Yeah.
I'm how long are those? Cool. Yeah. He's I don't know. It could be 5 minutes to 45, to 45 minutes. He goes, dude, I got on a call with this one dude and we just hit it off and we were just jamming for about 45 minutes. He signed up on the phone. I'm like, of course he fucking did. You talked to him 45 minutes, but I love his brain doesn't think about trying to scale everything and systematize. And he's doing great. He's not even rushed. He doesn't really want to open a third one right now. He's like, yeah, I don't know, man. We're crushing it with this. I just want to hang out with these two right now. Like just his brain is so much different. But no, I do. Is he a people person? He sure is. But that's why he doesn't need staff. He doesn't need 6 rotating front desk people to be a people person. And even if he wasn't, I still don't think you need it. I just don't think the utility means anything to the customer at the end of the day.
Vibes-based leadership. He's been on the show, so we'll link to Kieran's. We'll link to all these people. A lot of friends of the pod we're discussing here.
But you need someone to answer the phone, right? Maybe not at the desk.
But
person?
he's just saying you're that guy.
Not even you're that guy. You can again, so I had this business model I want to do called Annex, ANX. Right? It was my version of like a Core 24, 24/7, and it was going to be tied to it was really connected to the Urban Movement brand. So I had this whole thing. That was going to be the next thing I fucked around with at some point when I had some free time, right? And the whole thing there is I remember running it by people smarter than me. That was the big thing. It's like, we got to have someone to lead, nurture. Like, no, you don't. I'm like, in 10 years or 20 years, whenever I open this thing up, it's going to be fucking app based. Nobody needs a tour. If you're a standalone open gym, functional fitness, do you know what the training age is? Like, no one going to Planet Fitness who needs a tour of Planet Fitness is coming to Garage Gym or any concept or Core 24 or this, hypothetical Annex or anything like that. Their training age is high enough. They're like, yeah, I get it. I don't really need a fucking tour. That's squat racks. That's rowers. That's this. That's the person you're going after. What fucking tour? What sale? It's done. It's e-com. It's like Instagram e-com, Etsy. It's not in-person sales. It's not that.
Especially if it's if you go to the Instagram, like the Garage Gym Instagram, you kind of see what, they got the shit. They got the rogue stuff. They got all the stuff you want for if you actually want to train,
Yeah. But you have an area person who follows up. Yes, you got to follow up leads. You have to communicate. So a human being has to do a decent amount of that. But again, when it's lead came in, hey, what's up? Awesome. Want to prep you or vet you. If it's your Kieran who has a cap on his locations and he really vets people, cool. You could be like Iron 24 and not do that. And it's all fucking e-com because they're, essentially if a Planet Fitness met a 24/7 staffless model with more focus on strength equipment and a higher training age. Right?
How many locations do those guys have now?
Iron 24?
Yeah. Are they doing well or
I think there are a dozen. They're definitely in the Sun Belt. I know Texas was they definitely broke out of Texas. I think they're growing smooth and steady. Yeah. I also I think we've really kind of set our bar of what we think growth is. We think of solid core 0 to 100 in 10 years. We think of all the different brands. But yeah, I think they're growing smooth and steady, and Marty and the team over there, I think are probably doing a really good job with kind of slowly vetting the right guys. Oh, I was going to ask you guys, in what you see and if you guys had a lot of requests, obviously on the kilo side, people hey, I'm thinking of doing 24/7. That's the first foray into a lot of people touch it. They have a CrossFit gym or a group fitness thing. They want to make money during the day or off times. They don't want to have someone in there. So they go 24/7. Do you guys get asked a lot about is Kilo going to work with Facility or LockDoc or Hybrid AF and that kind of shit?
Yes. And dear listener, we do. We do integrate with Hybrid AF, aka Facility also. So yeah, if you're interested in that, give us a little ring, give us a little call, give us a little text message. We can talk about it. But yes, people are trying it out for sure. No, it's not an overwhelming amount.
And I'm happy it's not. I don't think that's the best move.
I am interested in these these places where they're a little bigger than what you're saying. You're they're in the 10 to 20,000 square feet. They're really decked to the nines. They have a small group training element, but they spend a couple $1 million building out the space to make it look a lot nicer.
Absolute Recomp, Fusion in Pennsylvania, all these big, huge. You're
Fusion's way bigger. There's a crop of people who are doing it on a smaller scale in more urban areas that. I think it's a pretty defensible model, honestly, because you want to work out at a nice place. If you're the good looking person who posts on social media, you want to clean aesthetic and you want to be around other people doing that type of stuff. So we've had a couple of them on the show. They work, some of them have been doing some pretty crazy numbers. Was wondering if you've been getting any caught wind of any more of those.
Yeah, 100% on the bigger box thing. The one thing I try telling people if they're still in concept phase, and I'm giving them any, if they're at that point, they're talking to me on the gym real estate side, not business consulting. But I'm like, if my opinion's worth anything, the value, the problem that Gold's Gym and everyone, minus the legacy brands like the Lifetimes and Equinoxes and the Crunches that have just killed it, because that'll always work. The thing that I believe is the benefit here is this boutique open gym idea where the square footage is smaller. You have to have way better op cap. The community happens way faster. And yes, community happens in every open gym model that's done, even if it's done wrong. The community happens. It just happens instantly. There's community everywhere, guys. It's not special. It's not reserved for something you did. It's just by default just happens when people are in the same geographical vicinity and they're doing similar things. It just happens. But I would argue the biggest vulnerability the Golds and all of them found was the cost of the real estate. Now, sure, it might be an old shitty warehouse and whatever, but again, here's the thing on the open gym models, that equipment, the cost of maintenance for equipment at that scale, if you're going to have 200 pieces, it's nuts. I mean, it's crazy. It'd be better if you to buy higher end shit that won't have many problems, buy from the really expensive reputable brands in a smaller spot, lower overhead. And we go back to me kind of bashing on payroll in the open gym model. Let's be for real. The average, I've seen open gym models with payroll front desk accounts for $36,000 of payroll per year. Not a fucking big deal, right? It's not really a number that moves the meter, but it's okay, we do front desk. Plus I have a marketing firm and ad spend. Plus I have the cleaning people at $6,000 a month.
Plus the repair guy.
The repair, you got it. So it's because I know someone who's listening to this, if they have chops on them, they're like, fuck that Stu guy. Front desk girls are going to cost me a total less than $40,000 a year. It's that in top of everything else, right? It just, why? What value do they bring that a fucking iPad and a key fob can't do?
So here are a couple examples of people we had on the show that I thought the model was pretty cool that fall into this. So Ethos, Joey Welling, I know you know him.
Charleston. Yep.
So his is about 20,000 square feet. I think they're around 1,400 members. Everyone paying $200
my
a month.
favorite gym to drop into in Charleston.
Absolutely crushing it. Looks like, I would love to go there and work out. I've heard a couple other people go down there and say it's absolutely killing it. This guy, Simon Anderson of Soma, he's out in Australia. He spent $5 million building out his place. And again, same thing. They're doing some absolutely crazy numbers, and it looks like, just like a luxury.
You fucking better.
But for context, he's in the Australian equivalent of Wall Street. So the numbers are all crazy.
Sure.
Similar to our New York numbers. They're crazy because everything's crazy.
Yeah.
And then Mike Orafici over at Iron Vault, he had 3,000 members. He was early to that influencer gym grind. Mm-hmm. These models, it's not like a fusion or an absolute recomp where they're just you just look at it, you're that's the most insane thing I've ever seen. It's a little more dialed down.
Yeah.
I think these are kind of cool.
The Soma one is interesting because hey, listen, there's no reason somebody with enough money can't challenge Equinox or Lifetime. Right. Those are the Goliaths. There's definitely somebody who's able to go ahead and start coming up with a premium health club, smaller footprint in the beginning. And then they do a handful of them, they do well and they'll get some money and they'll, do their thing, or if they pitch it right, they get a lot of money in the beginning. But that's the thing is Equinox and Lifetime don't have to stand up there as the overlords in the health club industry. I think there's someone else who's going to be able to challenge that and do that very well and have a much more organic small business entrepreneur come up story. I'm just saying for the average person listening to this, you like this open gym thing, it seems like it mainly, and maybe you guys are getting this, it's the group fitness guys that are just I'm fucking over it. I'm fucking over it. I'm fucking over it. I want to do something different, Stu. My kid's fucking turning 12. I want to live in Bali. And I'm I get it. That's definitely what I'd be looking at. And it can be done well. I just think it cash flows best when you can keep that 25% rent number, because what's the biggest issue with the open gym thing from a startup perspective? the initial nut is so fucking heavy.
Balls expensive.
It's so fucking heavy from flooring. I mean, like I looked at a spec sheet for build out on one. Flooring alone, 110,000. Install, delivery, everything.
For clarity on the Soma one, he spent like $2 million on his first one, and then like COVID happened, the building sold, he got kicked out of his old building, made some money back from that because the landlord like kicked him out, gave him some money to kick him out, and then spent another $3.2 million to rebuild that after COVID prices. So
good for him.
$5 million total, but you know, I just want to be
fuck yeah,
clear
I love
on
that.
That's a model that I think is really cool, and I'm interested in. What are you seeing that's cool?
Layouts are super interesting to me. I can't walk into an open gym model without taking out my phone with the LiDAR camera, and I measure how many feet between each piece. And I like to like I geek out on that stuff to a degree. Like I've got a Matterport camera, and I'll sit there and I'll be doing a Matterport like LiDAR scan on the fucking facility so I can get like dimensions and how far things are away from each other. I mean, if you saw the advertisement that F45 did, like advertising that they're bringing rep in for the squat racks, and in the PDF that they put out marketing for the franchisees, selling them on it just was, they were all talking about OpCap and how efficient the short racks are going to be coming off the wall for them. You know, put in rep F45 and you see that stuff. So the thing I'm seeing more of is, again, people thinking tight layouts. And I think of that like the bar. I love a good fucking Irish pub. Right. I like 1,000 square feet or under. I like being I want to have like this kind of room side to side, but I don't want to have this kind of room side to side. That's not a good pub. That's not a good scene for me. I like the energy of people, and the same thing happens in the open gym thing. So I think, because you look at some of these ones, and like I'll use Fusion, like you look over it, there's like 5 feet in between every piece of equipment, right? Which if you have not that many pieces of equipment, but you want to make it look really big, you do that and you put mirrors on both sides. And now it looks like you have 3 extra square footage. It's a great little fucking visual hack. But I'm like looking at how close people are putting stuff. And that is, again, and you're seeing it happen. And it's not, I don't think it's due to anything else, but people just being smart and being like, I don't think anybody minds doing a leg extension and less than 3 feet away is someone doing a hamstring curl. But that traditionally was not the way you did it in any health club model.
I have a question for you. What do you think about small group personal training gyms? Maybe they're doing okay. Maybe they're trying to level up a little bit. Eating up some square footage for some cold plunges and some red light therapies. Eating up. What do you think about all that?
So again, math. You say, Stu, I have an extra 600 square feet that I'm just doing dick with all. Right? I'm not doing anything with it. So 600 square feet, and at 30, let's say it's $35 a square foot. That's $21,000 annually. That would be an extra $1,750 a month. So cool. This is what you need to make in order to justify it. Now show me your startup costs on it. The sauna, the this, the that, the blah, blah, blah. How many of those would it take for us to recoup that initial investment and then be in the black on this monthly nut? It's just a spreadsheet. I don't really have it's like, me personally, no, I think it's fucking stupid. But that's my opinion. I go to the spreadsheet, like, especially on the real estate side, people aren't hiring me necessarily for my opinion on how the model is. That's on the business consulting side. But in this, it's like, I'll tell you what this is with this smart utilization of your square footage, right? Like so in that one, I don't, again, a 1-to-1, if it's like one person, because think about it, like, Mateo, if you and me know each other at class and we're boys, yeah, we'll pop in the sauna together, fucking just hang out, just 2 dudes sauning it up and getting sweaty, that's cool. But like, if I'm Sally and I'd like to take a sauna and Stu's in there, and I'm like, who is this creepy ginger fuck, right? And I'm like, I don't want to go in there. Like, it's awkward. Like, is it co-ed, or you get one male, one female? Like, we opened a huge sauna house, not Jamie Weeks' fucking thing. But House just opened up another location in Charlotte. They got Asheville. It's communal. I was in a 40-person fucking sauna. There weren't 40 people in there, but there's like 12 of us. I was in a communal cold plunge. That, not bad, but it's a dedicated location. I'm not sold on those either, but I'm not crazy.
That's my follow-up is, what do you think about the wellness sauna spa concepts, the smaller ones? And then what do you think about the big ones, like the other ships? What do you think about this trend?
I think the communal ones probably have a better chance than the one-off ones, like what Sweat House, Houz, which is Jamie Weeks' thing. I'm not sold on that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's hard enough to go sauna and cold plunge. It's also hard enough to go in there by yourself and do a thing. I think that world is going to be more communal, and the square footage, like, you can do a lot more in a communal setup than you can anything else from a utilization standpoint. But I'm not crazy. I wouldn't want to be the beta guys. I mean, I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm hoping it does. I want real estate to include wellness. I want all these trends to work. I really do. The industry guy me wants them all to succeed. I'm not personally sold on it because I've saunaed and cold plunge personally, like when training for and I'm like, I don't see this in a B2C world I just don't see it. Like, but I bet you there's someone who said that about tanning salons too.
Are tanning salons crushing it? I feel like tanning salons are getting slaughtered.
Not anymore, but it's not by the nature of their model. It's the nature of the information that came out. So as long as Andrew Huberman keeps pumping good shit and Rogan keeps getting his cold plunge, it's fine. The second one of those guys pops on there, goes, actually, this shit's going to cause you to have a third, whatever nipple. Like, then it's in trouble. It's all science dependent. And the problem with the cold plunges and the hot that I think is going to come is the regulation. Salons, the barber side, the blue shit the combs are in?
Yeah, that's all regulated.
The pH level, the state just randomly drops in. And if your pH level isn't there, they can shut you down, right? That's going to happen. Pools like the YMCA, someone comes in and regulates the chlorine and the pH levels in a pool. It's going to happen to those guys. And that creates a completely additional OpEx on maintaining and keeping those levels.
California, they're going to have like a lifeguard in each one of the little piles to make sure people don't drown.
100%.
I do think there's a lot of money to be made there, though. I think people are riding this trend now, and if you can get out before the music stops, it's kind of like CrossFit. There was a great time to start a CrossFit gym, and then there was a not so great time. People who were awesome 2013, 14, 15, if they started today, they probably wouldn't do that great, and so I feel like this is just a similar thing.
Yeah, I mean, still great smoothie bar. Like, smoothie bars are a great thing. You think like those were prevalent in health clubs in the 80s and 90s. Definitely a great revenue generator. A lot of them still have, but once like Jamba Juice and all like Clean Juice and all the independent ones opened up, it kind of gutted the health clubs version of that. You really had to have a good operator in there, or they just started licensing them to a Clean Juice or whatever and brought them in house. So yeah, I'm not sure. It's interesting. It's diversifying what we're seeing on the commercial real estate side, which makes the projects interesting. But I think it'll take us 5 more years before we can speak with confidence as to what we think about that. I think it's too early.
Well, Stu, all good things must come to an end. And, if people want to learn more about Jim Real Estate, where are you sending them?
Guys, head over to jimrealestate.co. We help gym owners lease and buy buildings anywhere in the United States, and it doesn't cost you a thing.
Mateo, what do we help gym owners do?
Gym owners, go to usekilo.com. Get yourself some gym management software. Make money. It will cost you some. You'll have to pay us, unlike Stu, but you will also have more free time and money, and that's the trade-off there.
Cost money to find money.
So
over time you'll get the money to pay Stu.
That's true too.
Yeah. So that's why we work in tandem. It's a good relationship here. Stu is awesome. Thanks again. And
thank you, guys.
World, it's tough getting guys like Stu to come on every week, give you all the secrets, share his secret spreadsheet. So if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, share with a gym owner in need. And I shared a bunch of newsletters over there. We write a newsletter for every one of these episodes. Go over to usekilo.com. On the blog, you can subscribe there, and you'll just get free alpha in your inbox every single week. Just all the best secrets from the smartest people in the gym world delivered to you for free.
And if anyone wants that spread, they can get a read for only copy. They'll have to copy and paste it into their own Google sheet or whatever, but just feel free to reach out, jimrealestate.co, Stu at jimrealestate.co, and I'm more than happy to send you a link to that. It's nothing special, but it's a cool tool to use.
Damn. The call out after the call out. I got it. Damn, the free after the free. There's just so much free value on the end of this podcast. I hope we want to reward you for sticking around to the end. That's how you know you're dealing with professionals. All right, Stu, we'll catch you later, man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.